Cool. Welcome to Three-Man Coverage Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. Week 2 is in the books. If you've listened to our other podcasts, thanks for listening in. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe down at the bottom there. All right. So, I'm Fred. This is Gino and Yen joining us. First time ever live in our third podcast here. So, boys, week 2 in the books. How'd you fare?
Still one game to go tomorrow, but unfortunately I'm probably not going to get enough points. Pretty lackluster week from my team. How about you?
I think I'm going to win in both leagues. Just to keep it safe, be good if Jake Elliott plays like Kaimi Fairbairn today and gets about 25 points to cement the win. But other than that, I'm about 30 up. And my opponent has Kyle Pitts and someone else to play.
You know you've had a good week when your kickers, you've had a bad week when you know your kicker's your highest scoring player with 20 points, but he did keep me in it for a little while. But unfortunately, it's probably not going to go down too well after tomorrow in the main league.
Yeah, Dustin Hopkins for me is my third highest scorer this week, so it's pretty sad week, and I think my opponent's going to get the chocolates this week. He has Barkley, I've got Robinson, but the deficit is too much. I've got 40 points to actually make up on that. I don't think Bijan's going to get there.
If you're willing to give up Garrett Wilson, I'll gladly take him off your hands if you want.
When you say you want to give him up, are you willing to trade him for me, eh?
I'll give you Zach Charbonnet for him.
He just picked him up on waivers. That's a hard no, thank you. But in the other league, looks like I'm actually playing the same opponent in the other league too. So I'm actually up in front, and I think I've actually got the chocolates in there. So I'll be 2-0.
It's really interesting, the two scoring differentials between the leagues, even though one scores much higher. You can almost draft a similar team, but then also not score as well sometimes, I've noticed, between the leagues. But anyway.
Well, you've noticed like some of the drafts I've been in, like I've managed to pick up same players out of each draft with the same people in that league as well. So it tells you the thinking of where people are.
Yeah.
Montgomery's one of them. Like I've picked him up in 3 leagues.
Yeah.
He actually did all right today again. So, so there's a cheeky bugger in this room who wants him for.
He did very well. We'll see if he's still on.
But then again, Calvin Ridley did do.
He did. I know. He might have helped you this week too, mate. Oh, well, we'll see what happens.
He wouldn't have. So we'll go to the first segment of all, and big one: key injuries. This game is just full of them. We see from week to week some big names out there, and the big one off the top. And Jens actually discussed it in previous podcasts. I didn't see, admittedly, I didn't see the risk in it, and I thought maybe he would have been good by the time the regular season starts, but Christian McCaffrey on IR, 6 weeks, tendonitis, potentially even more.
If you can, Simon, splice my video in from week 1. I actually told people to warn them about drafting Christian McCaffrey because of the age and the injury that he had coming into the season.
So McCaffrey had, around 400 touches last year. Last time he had about 300 touches. His body broke down the next year. He's at that age of about 28, turning 29. Coming into the season with a supposed calf strain. So these are concerns about drafting Christian McCaffrey, pick 1 overall.
But I hate to say I told you so, considering I'm also a Niners fan as well, but it's come into fruition. And now it's looking like he may not play until like week 8. Week 8 if he's lucky.
At least.
And what Shanahan loves to do is run his running backs into the ground. So you picked up Mason. I'm just expecting him to get injured within 2 weeks now as well. And then we'll have Gurinder. And you would have thought after everything that happened, he would go through like maybe a 50-50, 60-40, 70-30 split at running back. It was all Jordan Mason again this week. So this is a guy who hasn't really had any snaps for about 3 seasons, undrafted. I don't know, just the way things are going, I can just foresee a downfall of another running back at the Niners.
It's easy to see it that way for sure. You could also see it the other way, given that he's younger, fresher. You know, he's got a lot more fuel tickets left in the bank. But look, I'm not going to lie. It's a massive advantage for me on such a good team and a run-first team generally. Apparently CMC's injury got worse during the week. If that is possible for tendonitis and / inflammation of the area. So apparently got worse, and it's going to be around about 6 weeks, which is a huge disappointment for anyone who took him at pick 1 overall. So
High high investment. You wouldn't think it would have been high investment, high risk, right? Like at pick 1,
Whoa.
it would have been. Well, of course, you could speak to it.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say I picked up Michael Thomas after his record-breaking season at pick 5, and then he didn't play a game.
Yeah.
And he was stealing money off the New Orleans Saints for about 2-3 seasons afterwards as well.
I picked up Todd Gurley, pick 1, 2015, and he had an absolute stinker in his sophomore year. So you can only go on historical performances and historical data, and like if you make the investment and it pays off, it pays off. But hey, just to touch on there, Jordan Mason has stepped in, hasn't missed a beat. That San Francisco run game has not missed a beat. So. No. 48 rushing attempts, so 24 carries a game, 247 yards, and he's popped off a couple of long runs over 20, so one each game, and he's 5.1 yards a clip. So so San Francisco aren't missing a beat there. Probably a credit to that O-line as well. So they're probably helping out the young running back there as well. So if you're in the market for a running back there, Jordan Mason, he's going to at least he's going to be the bell cow for at least the next 6 weeks.
Yes, I definitely put some offers forward. You know me, I'm always open to the offers with any trades.
Have you got Jordan Mason, have you?
I've got him in both.
You know what? I did see that Saturday morning. I saw the news come through and like straight away, Do Your Job has made a transaction.
It was Friday morning.
Oh, even earlier.
I went to sleep thinking, fuck, I got to pick up Jordan Mason. And then I woke up the next day and he had picked him up.
Yeah, I know.
I was gutted.
He doesn't miss a beat, this guy.
I was thinking the same thing, probably on the Thursday night, same lines as you. I'm like, gee, I wonder if McCaffrey is going to be out. And I'm like, nah, I'll leave it till the morning. And I was actually surprised he was still there when I went to the waiver and saw him. And I was like, the news came through on Bleacher Report. I'm like, yeah, thank you very much. I'll take that.
Well, it helps when you wake up at 4 o'clock and everyone wakes up at 6:30. You got a 2-hour advantage over it.
I used to be a tradie, get up early.
All right, next big injury news is Puka Nacua. Out 5 to 7 weeks. This is also, I'm in that, I thought I got the absolute value here and pick in round 3. Obviously, his knee troubles have lingered on into the regular season, and if you've invested in him even higher than I did, then you probably feel the same way. He's probably a wide receiver 1 in most leagues.
Well, that's why he started off at like pick 9, pick 10, and then he still was projected to be early in the second round, but that's why he started dropping, because people were worried about the injury. It had nothing to do with the talent and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
It was the injury he was bringing into the season, and then he's lasted, a game, if that, and now he's going to be gone till mid-season.
You were going to touch on his teammate as well, but yeah, again, Puka's another one where they have underestimated the injury. Initially, it was only meant to be around 4 to 6 weeks, which now it's obviously extended 5 to 7, which is, it's basically half the season. So if anyone out there has Puka, you want to have obviously good wide receiver depth, because that's a massive chunk of game time that he's going to miss.
Well, a chunk of their offense, right? Because when you look at Cooper Kupp over the last 2 weeks, right, 27 targets. That's 17 targets over the next receiver in the Rams. So they're going to him. They're going heavy to him. Obviously, the Rams didn't do too well today. I can't remember who they lose to.
Well, they lost to the Cardinals. They got
right. Yeah, absolutely. They were hammered, right? So
it's probably not a bad segue to get into the reason why they may have lost so heavily as well, because Cooper Kupp is now injured too and left the game at halftime and is in a moon boot with an ankle that he hurt a couple of years ago.
Geez, they're really thin at wide receiver then, because then your next options are Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell. That would, round out your 3.
And they did not too bad. I mean, the game was buried as it was anyway. That defense was shocking. I think James Conner's an okay running back. He's nothing. He's not a world beater, but they made him look like he was Adrian Peterson, for crying out loud. Like, he was doing whatever he wanted. And then any worries about Marvin Harrison Jr. were quickly dispelled this week.
Yep.
That was the game everyone expected him to have last week. 4 receptions for 130 yards and 2 tuds.
Yeah, give credit to Kyler Murray too. That first ball that he threw to Marvin Harrison down the seam was just touch perfect, right? Just hit him down the back of the end zone. And it was, So a good way to bring your young receiver in, and a top flight one at that.
Well, the other thing as well with the Rams, apparently Matthew Stafford was dealing with a shoulder injury as well. And then I guess you're looking at the defense with Donald now being retired. I didn't think that would be this bad. I thought they were actually going to contend for the NFC West. They're now 0-2 with injuries all over the place. And it's really funny, they haven't really leaned on the run game. Like, Kyron Williams looked all right for like that little bit of a spell when they got that touchdown in the third quarter.
Yeah.
But it's really funny. They're just going through first. It's just, and it's not how they were winning games last year. They were running it, and then it opened up the passing game. Like, it's, I don't know. McVay, like I've said it a couple of weeks now, the play calling hasn't been his best, I don't feel.
They're off to a slow start and a bad start, I guess, now even worse with all the injuries. So they've got to somehow climb out of the hole that they're in. But the 2 injuries to their 2 key wide receivers is, it's not great.
Yeah, I love games where you've got it's either running back 1 or 2, and it's a blowout by halftime, and then you know that the game script is going to go your way, because James Conner was on 6 points for me for much of the first half, and then he just tripled his points.
Yeah.
So he scored me 19 for, so...
Well, my opponent had Kyler Murray, so I was thankful the game was over with, because he had like 35 points to halftime, and I was sitting there thinking, whoa, let's start settling before the lead is diminished, but yeah.
At least there wasn't Alvin Kamara with the opponent I was playing.
That's true.
Who went absolutely bananas and put up a 50 burger. Yeah, anyway, that's probably why my week's done.
Yeah, so Marvin Harrison, he shot up to top 20 wide receivers after week 2, so 28 points over the last 2 weeks, so much of it coming in week 2, so good game from Marvin Harrison there. Cool. Big one is also Miami just getting the Rocks, getting their socks knocked off them, I should say, last Friday against the Bills. Another concussion. It's not funny, but funnily enough, he went into Damar Hamlin, who, had an incident 1.5 years ago. So it's that's old news now. It's not too early to
Not for this guy. It's not.
You know how hard it is for me to restrain from making a joke? But anyway.
Yeah, so he's he didn't have a great game up until that point, and obviously he's tried to take the game by the horns and try, convert that 4th down. He's gone straight into him. Maybe he should have just slid.
Game by the horns. That was all him. That is his fault. He went headfirst into Damar Hamlin's chest.
Yeah.
And that's a guy with not much of a chest in the first place. Like, what was he thinking?
No, what I'm trying to say is that he probably knew that, he had to take the game on his own, and considering what he had produced thus far. So and then evidently he took himself out of the game.
The thing that gets me is that he was well over by, I think, at least 2 yards over the first down line. As in, he got the first down. It was done. All he had to do was slide. I don't understand why, and we touched on it last week with Jaden Daniels, that he led with his head. Lucky he wasn't injured. Tua led with his head, and he knows, obviously, his medical history with concussions, and still decided to do it. Is it like a bravado thing? I don't understand why he led with his head, and then bang. It wasn't even a big hit. It was a solid hit. But
no, it's amazing. It's amazing how many quarterbacks, past or present, struggle to slide. There's something about it.
I just don't get it. And now, until he's actually medically cleared to play, he's not going to retire, which is great. But until he's medically clear, he's probably one more concussion away from completely retiring.
Obviously, the karate evasive skills haven't worked for him, have they?
No, at least he took out something like a $200 million or there's a $125 million clause in his contract. If he does have to retire medically, he's good.
He'll be another thief as well, because let's be real, he was playing like he was concussed beforehand anyway. Did you see the interceptions he was throwing?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Like, the first one you could kind of excuse, but then if you see on the replay, he literally hits the wide receiver on the back shoulder.
Yeah.
Ricochets, interception. The second one, he overthrew the wide receiver who was being double covered. Overthrew. Easy interception, gone. The third interception, he was trying to throw. No, the pocket collapsed. He was trying to throw it out of
He was off
bounds.
platform, and it was a rainbow ball.
It was like Mr. Burns.
He should have just threw it into the ground. But he was off platform, tried to do too much. But that's
Burns throwing the ball. That's awesome. It actually was. It was like a 70-year-old man throwing a ball.
so fair to say he's probably going to be inactive this week. So if you've got Tua on your bench and you're a Miami fan, Skylar Thompson, I guess if you're looking at, they're quite
Talk about walking in cement shoes. That bloke is. He was shocking.
He was really bad. I mean, if you're a team that has Tyreek Hill or Jaden Waddle, you're just going to have to take what you get from this point onwards, unless the Dolphins actually hire another quarterback. Really, they're going to have to probably lean on the run game, which is A-Chain and Mostert from here. It's going to be big pluses for those two. The passing game is going to be hit and miss for the near future.
A-Chain had a great game, didn't he?
Yes. Look, I'm biased because I've drafted him in almost every league I've got. Told you guys not to be worried. That guy is so elusive and quick. He's a superstar.
Yeah, so where his points are coming from, though, because when you look at his rushing attempts, he's up there with like Alvin Kamara, but in terms of per average, he's actually under 4 yards a clip over the 2 games. But it's his receiving threat. So he's 14 targets of 14 receptions, 10.4 yards per reception. So he's up there in terms of yards per reception. And he's tied first in terms of targets for running backs in that area. So he's a valuable get if you have him.
He's the new Austin Eckler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
A quicker Austin Eckler too.
Austin Eckler in Washington doesn't sound right, does it? Like, it just, I don't know.
He's doing okay there, but it's definitely B-Rob as the number one there at Washington.
All right, we better go through. There's a few injuries just touch base on, so let's do a quick fire here. Marquise Brown out regular season. It was kind of trending he was going to be there, and then it was a pull out last minute. So KC weren't really missing him because their wide receivers weren't really targeted that much, although Rashid Rice did have that long touchdown down the left-hand side. But in terms of the passing game for KC, only 151 yards in the air, so Mahomes was actually held this game. But
it's his lowest yardage total in his career today, apparently.
So anyways, we'll touch through that game when we come to it. AJ Brown, hamstring. What's the news on this?
Precautionary, apparently, only because it was laid out this morning. But I was reading in the lead up to today that he came up on the injury report Friday. They don't want to risk him, which tells me that they think they've got Atlanta covered, which you would think so, and they're just not going to risk him.
Well, I did say last week Devonta Smith could be an X factor here in terms of like if they double AJ Brown, he could be the lonely man on the other side. So if AJ Brown's not there, they'll just shift the coverage over to Devonta Smith, which means that they may take him away. But if AJ Brown's there, I think Devonta Smith will still have a good game. So cool. We'll go Walker. Which Walker is this?
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker. Okay, sorry. My bad.
He had an oblique injury. He was inactive this week. Apparently precautionary, but I think there's a clear, distinct difference between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I mean, Zach Charbonnet, like I picked him up, he got about 15 points. I mean, he was serviceable, but he's no Kenneth Walker. Like, Kenneth Walker is an absolute animal when he's running the ball.
Yeah, you can see in Kenneth Walker, right? He can run between the tackles, run outside the tackles. I haven't seen much of Zach Charbonnet, I must be honest with you, but he looks like that ground and pound type that, in the same mold as a Justice Hill or Gus Edwards. So he's a bit thicker set, but yeah. So if you have got Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet's there, you take him on a fly just in case it lingers on a little bit longer. I don't know, but you have him on your team.
He has been susceptible to little niggles here and there, hasn't he, Walker, over the last couple of years? But if he gets a good run in it, he could be. He definitely could be a big name come the end of the year.
That's the thing. He had 103 yards in 3 quarters last week.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, Pacheco, pretty much the last drive. Pacheco,
fractured foot there.
Right, that's the latest news, is it?
Okay. Only a fractured fibula/ankle testing to come. But it's a big out for the Chiefs.
If you saw it, his leg got caught under the weight of I think one of the D tackles for the Bengals just landed on him, so it didn't look great. But yeah, I did hear that he left on crutches. So, and who would be the main guy after him though?
Perine. There's also a rookie.
Generic Prince.
Yeah. Who?
Generic Prince.
No, there's another guy.
Oh, Steele.
Steele.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be Perine and Steele. They'd be the next Super Bowl. Who it is, who knows?
And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still listed as one of KC's running backs.
He ain't getting it. He's not getting it done.
Okay, cool. We'll just rush through. So, Cooper Kupp. So we touched briefly on him. Leaves in a moon boot. What's the latest on this?
They don't know yet.
Still don't. Okay, so we'll find out next week.
His ankles are cooked anyway. He keeps re-injuring his ankles, and that's what has been his Achilles heel, pardon the pun, over the last couple of years with his injury run.
But just quickly, before we move on to the next player, like Puka Nakua's dealing with a knee injury. Cooper Kupp started with a knee injury. If Puka Nakua comes back, that doesn't mean it's not going to lead to like hamstring injuries and so forth for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Which is what Cooper Kupp copped last year. So, I mean, he's at risk for the rest of the season, I think, anyway. Even though he's younger, like, knee injuries lead to hamstring injuries, so...
Oh, yeah. Evan Ingram. Yeah, this one, I didn't see this one coming. I had him as my starting tight end, and then I woke up this morning and he was a big fat donut. So, so hamstring. So they kept him out for the game.
Pre-game, that happened.
Yeah, pre-game.
Pre-game.
Jermaine Johnson, so Jets linebacker, although not fantasy related, but you know, it has the potential to affect the Jets defense if you've got him down there because he is one of their edge rushers there. So potentially a big out for them. Oh, it's a torn Achilles, so it's actually a big out for them.
Apparently, they're still waiting to confirm, but apparently it was a torn Achilles.
I read he was out for the season.
Well, if that must be torn, then.
If it's torn Achilles, they're definitely out. But also, not to mention as well, CJ Mosley also went out that game as well. So that Jets defense is, that front seven is tethering at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
DeForest Buckner carted off with an ankle. So,
your old mate.
Was he my mate?
You loved him.
No, I didn't.
DeForest Buckner?
Oh, I was thinking Dearness Johnston for one of those.
What the heck?
Yeah, that's my boy. Sorry, that's my boy. He still hurts that we let him go.
Yeah, well, he went off with his ankle today as well for the Colts.
All right, boys.
Wait, one more. JJ? Justin Jetters.
Oh, of course. Jetters.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I went blank too. Well, he said he's good to go after the game.
I hope he's good to go.
Whether or not that's true, we'll find out, I guess. But a quad injury for Jefferson is a big wait and see.
He did say he was going to be fine, but that's a lot of game speak.
Yeah, exactly.
It's we'll see.
In 2 weeks, has he minimised any issues people had coming into the season?
Probably, I think so. Darnold's been okay, but the thing that worries me about Darnold is that he did the same thing at Carolina when he started with them, and then we know what happened.
Hey, man, did you see that touchdown he threw today to Jefferson?
Yeah, the 97th
torched that defense.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, that'd be a massive confidence booster against that 49ers D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kurt Warner just throwing bombs.
It didn't happen last year, but it might be Kurt Warner 2.0 at the Vikings.
Justin Jefferson, right? 4th ranked player in fantasy year to date. So 13 targets in Minnesota. So he's tripled the next player in Minnesota. So they definitely value him. 192 yards over 2 weeks. So 35 points spanning over those 2 weeks.
So he was dropping to the bottom of the first round. But the other injury I heard on the way here was that Amon-Ra St. Brown might be carrying something as well.
Yeah. He carried a lot last year too. Like, what was the injury he carried all of last year and he played all season?
It's like an oblique type injury or labrum or something.
Something like that. And even if he is injured, it won't surprise me if he plays through it again. He seems to be pretty tough, but yeah, he was definitely carrying something through the game because he hobbled off a couple of times. So,
well, Jameson Williams is sitting on my bench, boys. If you want to have 11 targets for week 2, so he's
Sounds like you need a tight end, so I'm willing to give you Kittle for Bijan if you really want
For Bijan.
tight end depth.
Look, tight end might actually be in play too, because Dalton Schultz isn't getting it done for me. There are a lot of mouths to feed in Houston, so he's my backup there. Okay. Any other injury news?
That's it. I think that's enough. I mean, normally we see pre-season injuries, really, but now for whatever reason we got through the pre-season and they're starting to come through now, which I think, again, will touch on your point of players not having game time in pre-season, and then once the season comes, boom.
Oh, don't talk to me about that. Like, starters need more than just one drive, right?
Yeah, man.
They need to. It's a no-brainer, right?
It went from maybe 8-10 years ago where they played a half at least to a quarter, and now they're just playing a drive and then that's it.
Yeah, well, historically, when it was 4 weeks, they would ramp it up from week 2 onwards, and then you'd see the starters play a whole half, right? And then it'd be a mixture of ones and twos, but now it's like they don't want to risk the starters at all. And like, there's surely got to be a person out there that's doing that analysis where they can see like game time in preseason versus game time in regular season, or X amount of injuries that you incur. It's just. Yeah, it's the amount of superstars that are going down. It's not a great product when you think about it for the game. Like okay. So we previewed a few games last week. We're going to review them. I think we actually picked most of the winners here. So Bills and Dolphins. I think we all picked the Bills there.
Yeah.
Any takeaways from that other than Josh Allen just controlling the game, Tua going down, Archane having a great game?
I just think, it's surprising with the amount of losses they've had on both ends of the ball and how they look like the preeminent favourites for the AFC East. They can't see anyone beating them.
The Bills are winning the division. I think it's just the way they're coached, really. McDermott's been there for a long while now. He knows what the team needs, what the team is obviously capable of. And like you said, a fair few losses both sides of the ball, and they're still getting it done. So
is it passing on the torch from the Pats to the Bills in the AFC East?
Maybe, possibly. I mean, they've won the last how many years now? 3, 4.
They got to stop choking playoffs, and then we can have that discussion.
That's true. That is true. Bucks versus Lions. I didn't see this game, to be honest with you, but from the stats I'm looking at, the Bucks had a good game, and Baker Mayfield is your number 1 fantasy quarterback in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and he's probably on the waivers for a lot of leagues still.
Yep. Well, let me read you some stats, right? 49 passing attempts, 36 completion, for 74% completion rate, right? 74 completion rate. His yards per attempt are down, so he's under 10. Derek Carr, who's beneath, who thought Derek Carr would be number 2, by the way, after week 2. 5 TDs, 1 interception, and averaging 25 points a game in fantasy. So if you see Baker Mayfield in the waivers, put him up there. If you'll pick, definitely would look at him.
100%.
Definitely look. The Bucks offense looks pretty good. Any takeaways from Bucks versus Lions?
For me, it's still a surprising result considering how the Lions handled them twice last year. Yeah, Baker Mayfield. Good on him. You got to be happy for him. And
I'm happy for him.
The arrogance is toned down.
Yeah.
Too, so he looks like he's a legitimate leader. Wouldn't a certain team in Ohio love to have a quarterback like that playing right now?
Yeah, Deshaun didn't look too bad, though.
Yeah, he didn't look too good either.
He looked better. At least he had some kind of, I think, what was the word I used last week? Pizzazz?
He had 1 touchdown.
He had a little bit more pizzazz this week in his gameplay, but
against the Jags, he had 1 touchdown left.
Yes. No, he wasn't great.
He still sucks. Unless he gets the Tiger Woods treatment and reverses this masseuse thing, I don't think he's ever going to play well again. Let's pump the brakes.
I think he's cooked too.
Yeah, Rashad White. I was just having a look at Rashad White. He's all the way at number 30 for running backs in fantasy for Tampa Bay. So they're really going their air attack, right, over their number 1.
But he's not rushing the ball very well.
Yeah, he's
He wasn't last year either.
No, he wasn't. He did his work in the air, with a little dink and dunks. But that's why I never drafted him, because I never believed in him as a runner.
Yeah, 25 attempts over 2 weeks and averaging 2 yards a clip. So you can see that he's hit.
That's
there you go.
horrible.
Yeah, so the stats are speaking for what you were just saying there. So Next game here, Rams versus Cardinals. So we touched on this briefly before. Kyler Murray had a great game. Marvin Harrison Jr., the rookie, had a great game as well. James Conner controlled the ball on the ground late in the game. Yeah.
They had a good game too.
Yeah,
Sorry?
saving that
McBride
touchdown.
had a game.
That fumbled, he fumbled, someone fumbled a touchdown. I can't remember who it was, and McBride picked it up in the end zone, which helped his fantasy day.
Yes.
But basically everything Cardinals today was good, really.
Trey McRae, is he a rookie? I think he's a rookie, right? Second year, right. And just to take it left field a little bit, but Brock Bowers, the rookie, picked 10 out of Vegas. Jeez, 17 targets, 15 receptions at 10.5 yards a clip, right? So, Isaiah Likely, George Kittle, then Brock Bowers. I don't know if anyone's got Brock Bowers in the league, but
Yeah, he was drafted as backup, so I think he'll be.
I know exactly.
he will definitely get into the starting lineup at some point.
He was in that person's starting lineup today, yes.
He was in my starting lineup in the other league.
Okay. So he would have did pretty well for you because I think 9 receptions, 98 yards. I think was his
serviceable. That's good. I mean, he hasn't put up Laporta numbers from last year or anything like that, but he's been good. Like he's been really good for a rookie.
Laporta hasn't put up Laporta numbers again this week.
He hasn't. He's
sophomore slump. Sophomore slump. It's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Sophomore slump. It's a thing.
He got drafted in the second round in our draft, late second round.
Second or third,
I think
latest.
Yeah, I think that was. I think I know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Philly fan.
Yes,
he would have been he would have been the first tight end drafted off.
Easy.
Yes,
by far.
Next game, Bengals versus Chiefs. This was a close game. This one. Takeaways from it.
Outside of the call that the Chiefs got late, which we touched on earlier, I'm sorry, that was not pass interference. To say that a defensive back has gone up too early to contest a catch and calling PI at that moment in time, that's absolute garbage. No matter how you look at it.
Where is that a rule anyway? He went up too early to try and intercept the ball.
That's what they said. That's what the live commentary said. He went up. He went up, basically saying that he impeded the receiver's run or catch.
Yeah, I get it. So in AFL, you may as well go up and spoil the ball and let them catch the ball.
So there is an interpretation of the rule that it can be. I'm probably paraphrasing here, but there is an interpretation of PI that it can be overlooked if there's intent to play the ball and not the man. And when you look at when you look in real time, it looked like he played the ball.
100%.
And then when you slowed it down, you can see that he may have got there a bit early. So I can see it either way. But credit to the Chiefs, they took their chances and they capitalized them when they needed to. But the Bengals were their own worst enemy that game.
Yeah.
There was a clear run earlier in that half where he could have scrambled for the first down within the 5-yard line, right? And extended that drive. McPherson missed an extra point.
True, yes.
So he missed an extra point. Gesicki drops a catch on first down that could have been easily 11, 12 yards and actually stalled the drive after the turnover. So there's a few opportunities there on the Bengals side, but I get it. It's unfair to talk about a game that was actually a really good game and then say that the refs actually costed the Bengals. No, the Bengals actually had the opportunity that they should have capitalized on them much earlier, but that point that missed point would have eaten to the minds of Evan McPherson and all his Bengals teammates. So
that's fine, but it's almost like every time the Chiefs play in these sorts of games, they get the calls, and it's not the first time that within our group of friends, fantasy people, in general, fantasy people, and NFL fans, that the Chiefs get these calls at home in key moments all the time.
Look, it was a great game. I thought it was one of Joe's best games.
He outplayed.
Oh, by far.
Yeah,
by far. And to do it with minimal impact from Jamar Chase, and I was going to use another word, but that soft person pretending to be injured, sitting on the sidelines as a wide receiver too. Yoshivas was really good catching those touchdowns.
He was.
Gesicki was incredible. I haven't seen him play tight end like that for a long time. I mean, Joe Burrow played, he just didn't get the results, and then Mahomes did Mahomes. And then I thought that last interception was it. I thought that was going to be the game, but
Yeah, so after that interception, right, you've got the momentum, and they didn't capitalize with any points there. So you've got to take your chances there. But yeah, so KC, they come away with the chocolates there. So Joe Burrow is now the talking point going into this game. That Joe Burrow's 3-1 against Patrick Mahomes. The only two other quarterbacks to do that have 3 wins is Josh Allen and Tom Brady. So now he would have been 4-1, but he didn't get the chocolate. So we move on. So Cincinnati have got the Commanders next week, so it will be Monday Night Football. So, I don't understand that. We'll talk about it later on, but Monday Night Football, I think it's just Jaden Daniels being LSU and Joe Burrow being LSU. So from same alma mater.
Yeah, all for a 5-score loss for the Commanders. What a game to watch.
Bears versus Texans. I had this game on and looked like Stroud early looked pretty strong. And Mixon had a few key receptions and runs as well early in the game. But take me through it. I caught bits and pieces.
That's exactly how you said it for the first half. For the second half, it was a defensive slog. The Texans only scored 3 points after half time. As we touched on earlier, Kaimi Fairbairn kept me in my main league fantasy match, pumping 3 50-yarders and a 40-yarder and an extra point. So kept me in my game. But aside from that, the Bears' defense is actually pretty good, and they stopped almost everything that the Texans had for the second half.
They were elite. Montez Sweat started rushing. CJ Stroud collapsing in the pocket. They just put them under lock and key for the second half. Where CJ Stroud was dismantling and was the complete opposite in the second half. Joe Mixon did go down with an injury. I mean, he did come on again late, but didn't have that explosiveness that he was showing with his receptions and runs early on, which may have affected it. But look, if we're talking from a fantasy perspective, DeAndre Swift sucks. Let's just be real. He absolutely sucks. He's had one good season when he had the best offensive line in Philadelphia, where he rushed for 300 yards. Every other time, unless it's been optimal, this guy absolutely sucks. And then you're looking at the wide receiver room for the Chicago Bears as well, right? So, all right, DJ Moore was okay. It looks like he's the clear number one. Keenan Allen was out. Not sure what's going on with him this year. Then Roman Dunze is a virtual no-show in the game, in the passing game as well. They invested another top 10 pick. I'm pretty sure he's top 10 or 12. So there are 2 picks in the top 10. Roman Dunze is not a feature. Their O-line absolutely sucks. And now you could probably give Caleb Williams an excuse for that, but for me, he's looking like Caleb Jamarcus Williams at this point in time. So he looks... Come on, dude. He has a big mouth. He came out of college with this attitude like he's like eaten a bit. But he has not shown any. He's had a few good throws. He's now thrown 4 interceptions in 2 games. He is not living up to the hype at the moment. If it was anyone else, people would be talking so much rubbish as it is right now. Look at Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield did not get this in his first season, these leniencies. This kid, for whatever he's going through, unscathed at all. He looks like he doesn't really care as well at the same time. Like, just sell all your stocks in the Chicago Bears for the point in time, because if you're expecting huge fantasy production from them, you got another thing coming.
Again, though, Williams...
It's a fair spray.
Yes, it is.
They suck, man.
I don't think he likes it.
The hype on them and then Caleb Williams. I mean, please, show me something. Yeah. Stop crying on the sidelines and actually do your job. He's getting paid like what? What does a rookie contract first pick get? 10 mil plus? Let's do something, okay?
He looked good. He made a few good throws in the first half.
Yeah, and then he looked shit.
And then after that, similar to the Bears' defense in the second half, the Texans went absolutely bananas. We had Lassiter with the pick. We had Stingley Jr. with the pick. Donnell Hunter absolutely annihilated him.
And I loved it.
I didn't think Williams was going to get up. He got absolutely annihilated.
I'll give him credit for that. He got up.
He did. He got up. But yeah, the Bears. I actually think Keenan Allen will end up being the number one there. I don't see DJ Moore getting anywhere near as many targets and as Allen did last week anyway. Even though he didn't capitalise, I know he was paid in the off season and whatever, but I actually think that Williams prefers Allen from what I saw last week. But again, it is only a small sample size, so we'll see.
And on sucking, Matt Eberflus needs to get the ass already. Like, he absolutely sucks, man. Did you see anything in offense where you're like, that's my guy, he's a genius? I know he's a defensive coach, but this guy absolutely sucks. How he kept his job for this season is beyond me. And if he's got his job by week 6, 7, 8, I will be so surprised. He absolutely sucks as a coach. There's nothing good about Chicago right now.
Like I said earlier in our group chat, the Bears will bear, and like you said last week, the Browns will brown. They're very, very similar. Very similar franchises that just, for whatever reason, they can't get it right. But we'll see. Williams is still very, very early in his career, but yeah, it's not looking good.
No, airline sucks. Let's go draft a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Idiots. And then pay top dollar for 2 wide receivers as well at the same time. I really started to dislike it this season.
Yeah. So Yen doesn't like the Bears. We're good with that.
Yeah. And just to recap on that, Yen doesn't have the patience. After week,
No,
he doesn't have the patience.
Dude, did you watch him in college last year?
I
He goes and cries in the stands because he lost the game to his mum, okay? Then he stunk it up afterwards as well after that point. And it's like he stunk it from that particular point onwards. He has shown no improvement, and he has shown no leadership skills. And when he was getting slaughtered in that first quarter, I was just smiling from ear to ear. I loved it. And that Danielle Hunter hit late, that was...
Dude, I don't know. It was like a semi-truck just going through like 2 bollards and annihilating him. It was unreal.
Let me just keep you there, right? So does Caleb Williams have the... I don't know if you remember, but Cam Newton had this arrogance about him when he came out of college as the number 1 pick.
Cam Newton won a division?
No, yeah, but eventually. But if you're talking about, at their careers at that point in time,
I think it's too hard to compare because Cam's obviously a lot bigger, a different player. He had his legs.
Yeah.
Williams does too. He's not using them, but I think they're too. There's too much difference between the two to compare in that sense. But again, we're on the lines of arrogance, right? At least Cam almost flaunted it.
Yeah. Cam also came out in his first game and threw for 300 yards too, and he's the only rookie QB to do so. And look, I still like Cam. I like him as a personality. If his shoulders weren't shot, he should still have a job in the league.
Have you seen this podcast?
Love it.
I love it. Just tells it like it is.
He tells it like
it
is,
Cam.
And he's real smart. Come on our podcast. And I dig the hats too. But I like him as a personality. Says it as it is. And I actually liked when he was doing the Superman stuff because he was literally putting his body on the line to run the ball into the end. So this kid has not done any of that yet.
Yeah, it might take him a while to get his tickets up. So, but yeah, Yen, hell of a spray there, mate. Hell of a spray. But if we're looking at Caleb Williams as a fantasy quarterback, who's in front of him? Jacoby Brissett, Will Levis, who had a shocker today. Stafford, Goff, Justin Fields, Bo Nix. Justin Fields would be an interesting get if you're looking for a quarterback. But, I mean, it's just someone that's even-keeled that that's going to turn up. I think I've seen enough from Justin Fields over the last 2 weeks. I think he'll just solidify his job at Pittsburgh there.
I watched that game today, and I don't think he did anything that was that impressive. I think when Russell Wilson is fit, they might actually give him an opportunity and sit Justin Fields. He hasn't been that great with his legs, and he's throwing at times. I mean, all right, he had the same issues at Chicago. Like, he throws the ball sometimes, and you're just like, what are you doing? Like, it's just so...
So you think Russell Wilson will...
I think he'll come in. Yeah, I think he'll come in when he's fit. Absolutely. He has not looked... I don't think he's done enough to cement his job regardless of them being 2-0. That D is flying.
Pittsburgh are 2-0. No NFL pundit picked Pittsburgh to be 2-0 after the first 2 weeks, right? The Ravens are 0-2.
Man, I said this before we even started. I said the Steelers are going to be a decent team.
Well, the thing is, like, why would you think otherwise, right? Because I would think, like, when I look at Pittsburgh on their team, I go, geez, that team they're not going to win 9 games. Tomlin has never had a losing season. Like, what would actually drive people to think that way?
9 wins is their minimum.
Yeah, exactly.
Every year.
But look, that defense is flying too, by the way. They're just playing so good as a unit. And at the moment, Najee Harris is running the ball relatively okay. It's just disappointing seeing what Fields has done with his wide receivers at the moment. Pat Frymuth has actually had a pretty good season to date, though.
What's going on with Jalen Warren? He's 11 attempts over the last 2 games.
Came in with an injury.
Yeah,
he looked pretty explosive the couple of runs that I saw him have today, but he's not.
Well, Najee Harris is tripling his.
Yeah.
Just tripled the output versus Warren. So
yeah.
Considering the season Warren had, so
I can come the end of the season, I reckon there might be either 50-50 split or Warren takes it. He's more explosive than Najee.
Look, we previewed Falcons versus Eagles last week, so we won't touch base on it. But any last thoughts on it? Obviously, the AJ Brown injury may come into question. Might free out some other people there, but any thoughts?
Obviously, that's tomorrow's game for us. Look, for me, I couldn't care what happens as long as Drake London gets me a 60 and gets me the win in the main league. I'm good. But honestly, though, I am expecting a bounce back from Cousins. I mean, he needs to do something after his first week. It was pretty bad. London and Pitts, we know Bijan will do his thing, but London and Pitts obviously are the two. But I think the Eagles will be too strong still. I think even with AJ Brown out, they've got the superior O-line. Defense is probably a little bit more tilted towards Atlanta, but I just think the Eagles have got a little bit too much firepower.
I just think it's going to be the Bijan and Saquon show. That's it.
It could be, yep.
That's all I think. I think it's going to be. They're both going to dictate the outcome. Yeah, if AJ Brown is out, I don't know if Devontae Smith is going to handle being blanketed. Double coverage or whatever, so I don't know.
I think look for like you said, Barkley and probably got it to a lesser extent and
if Drake
to get underneath
doesn't lift in this game, he'll be on the end of another serve next week. I swear to God, he better lift tomorrow and have a great game.
Yeah, and you were really high on him after you got an auto pick, right? You're like, second thought.
Drake London's a great pick.
I like that so
Devon A-Chain or Debo Samuel. What do I hear them for?
I love the pick so much that I did zero research in the preseason on Drake London. Come on, Drake. I'm behind you.
Yeah, if Atlanta are going to win this, they need to control it on the ground. Just get Kirk Cousins to calm down a little bit after his week 1 performance, but Bijan should just run them into the ground as well as Barkley. So
be careful, Kirk, as Michael Penix is after your job.
That could open things up too.
All right, boys. So, waiver wire. So, there's been a few surprises over the last 2 weeks. And if you're looking to stream anybody or looking to actually put them in as your full-time starter, let's have a look at the quarterbacks. Let's start with the quarterbacks, right?
Well, I think we touched on the main two that no one would have picked B1 and 2 at this point in the season.
Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr would not be on the waiver wire this week.
I'm still expecting them to drop off. I know they've started off great, but I still think those early round quarterbacks, Mahomes, Allen, Jalen Hurts, they're eventually going to overtake him. Yeah, they've had a good run, but I think teams are going to scheme him. Like, Derek Carr was not good last year. He's been better, but what have the Saints done that is anything different? Like, all right, they played the Cowboys this week. They dismantled them. But the Cowboys are not the Cowboys of last year. They don't have the same O-line. They don't have the same D-line. They don't have the same anything from last year, really.
You want to talk about a team that drank its own bathwater? The bloody Cowboys at home against New Orleans. Far out.
Yes. They definitely did. I'd love to see what Carr's stats are minus the 2 long TDs to Shaheed from week 1 and week 2.
Yeah, that could skew it. Yeah,
that would be a massive skew.
Well, look, if I read you what, so he is the only quarterback, Carr, in the top 35 in fantasy that's got double-digit yards per attempt. which tells you that he's at 11.4, Baker's at 9.7,
Okay.
and then Lamar Jackson is at 6.9, who's 3. Kyler Murray at 8.2, 7.7. So that tells you a lot about how they're attacking the air game, right? So he's the only quarterback that I can see in this page right now that
air yards per attempt.
that's
So
that validates your claim.
Take away Shaheed's too, and he's probably middle of the pack.
Well, that's the other thing. And wouldn't you be hating life if you drafted Chris Olave?
Yeah, I've never had him in any of my teams.
I had him in the rookie in his rookie year, and he did okay. Like he was, I'd stream him in as a flex, but
I mean, last year he had 1,000 yards and so forth as well, but he's not getting those big chunk plays. It's always like working intermediate and so forth, or getting those short routes. But then he doesn't get enough targets to warrant being a weekly start either.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. He doesn't get the sufficient targets where you can all right, he's not catching it. Eventually it's going to click. He's not getting those 7 to 10 targets you want your wide receiver one to be getting.
I think it's because they've got a couple of pretty good utility players. Someone like Taysom Hill, who can come in sometimes as a tight end, as a receiver. They've got a lot of gadget stuff going on. Shaheed, who obviously stretches the field and has proven that 2 weeks in a row now that he can do that frequently. So if that happens, they can rip games open, and then someone like Kamara can take the game over just with the run game. So that's probably where Olave's missing out. Maybe it's something along the lines of he needs to score a touchdown early,
maybe
for production, that sort of thing. But yeah, he hasn't been great.
Okay, running backs. So if we're looking at running backs, here your top 5, just to round it off: Alvin Kamara, Devon A-Chain, we touched about, J.K. Dobbins at the Chargers. 27 rushing attempts over the last 2 weeks, 266 yards, long of 61, so that may have skewed. I think that was this week. He actually ran...
That was last week.
That was last week. He did have a long touch.
100 and something yards at a time.
3 runs over 20 yards, so whatever injuries he was carrying in years past, it may have looked like they're gone now. And he's running at 9.9 yards at clip.
Yeah, that only means he's due to get injured.
I was about to say the same thing. I wouldn't hold my breath.
Absolutely not. These are very, very inflated stats. No way it's going to last.
Fingers crossed for him, though.
Yeah, he's had the best. He's out of it.
But, I mean, given the history and over, X amount of years now, he's probably not too far away.
I mean, his last full season, he was incredible. I think he was going close to 6 yards a clip, but now, did you say 9 yards a carry? He's going
9.9. Yeah, just 10 yards of rushing attempt.
That's not sustainable unless Jim Harbaugh, is like this elite offensive guru that can scheme awesome run plays. I think that's going to die off eventually. They're going to come up against good opposition and good run defense where they're not going to have any effect whatsoever. So pick him up, it'd be great depth and interesting flex play from here to here. But I think you'd find in most leagues he's picked up now anyway.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard, what are your thoughts? I mean, he's getting the work there. He's definitely getting the work there. And his yards per attempt at 4.5 over the last 2 weeks. And yeah, if you're looking for a running back to flex in there and he's sitting on the waiver wire, what do you think?
I think he's been good.
Yeah.
I actually think he's been good. Like you said last week, he was paid to be the number 1 running back, and Tajay Spears has not featured much at all. Mm-hmm. He still looks explosive. A lot of people probably didn't think that the Titans would operate as well so far offensively as they have. But Pollard is definitely looking like a handy player if you've got him at the moment.
And we touched base on this, but Zach Charbonnet, if you're with Kenneth Walker's injury out, you could be a potential to slot in. You weren't too happy on his performance today. Serviceable, but you're not seeing the same explosiveness out of Zach Charbonnet.
He doesn't have that gear that Walker has. If anything, if he's on the waiver or wise, he'd probably be one of the first running back you'd want to pick up just in case Kenneth Walker doesn't play this week again as well. Mm-hmm. And then obviously J.K. Dobbins, if he's somehow there in leagues as well, they're probably going to be your top 2. Other than that, there's not really much to pick up from in the running backs apart from Braylon Allen, I reckon.
Yes, it was interesting today and had 2 touchdowns for the Jets. A little bit worrisome if you drafted Breece Hall
That's what I was thinking,
in
man.
the first round, because Braylon Allen is a little thin so far in that offense. But if today's any indication, they're probably going to utilise him a bit more because he is just as explosive.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Braylon Allen's score, like in our league, half-point PPR, Brees had 24 to Braylon Allen's 20 points. Scored 2 touchdowns. I mean, if that kid wasn't there, you're looking at Brees Hall getting a 35, 40-point game. But if he's going to eat into his time and be this effective, this is concerning if you got Brees Hall.
Yeah.
But Braylon Allen, like, you wouldn't think Breece Hall's at risk of losing,
Not
maybe
his job,
vultured.
no.
Like, he may have carries getting vultured throughout the season, but at the moment, I'm seeing Breece Hall 3 times the production so far. So, yeah, okay, interesting.
Braylon Allen didn't do much last week. It's only this week where he's obviously had a decent outing. But moving forward, if Braylon Allen's production from this week continues, Breece Hall owners should definitely be worried, I think, because this is a guy that's come off a major injury already. They probably want to sustain him for the long term as well. I mean, you only need to look at Christian McCaffrey, who has been ridden into the ground over the last couple of years. So if the Jets are smart, they've got another really good guy in Allen. Could it be a really super tandem? And moving forward, I think Allen is going to be a thing, especially after what he did today.
What's one man's trash is another man's Jordan Mason.
Yes.
Okay, wide receivers. So, although not waiver wire, because he would have been drafted in most leagues, but Jaden Reed is in your top 3 in terms of fantasy wide receivers there. Alec Pierce, I actually looked at him last week as a sneaky get.
Yes.
10 targets over the last 2 weeks, 8 receptions, 181 yards at 22.5 yards per reception. A long of 60 yards, which is that bomb that Alan Richardson had last week.
Yeah.
That was a great ball, by the way. He was hands in his face and he just threw it, and Alec Pierce managed to be there. But 34 points over the last 2 weeks, averaging at 17 points. Oof. And he'd be sitting there.
And he's sitting there in most leagues. I think why he was undrafted was last week it was done through 3 big plays. Yeah. This week was a little bit different because it was 5 or 7.
Yeah, it was
targets. 7 targets.
Like a better wide receiver 1 type thing. So he's done it in 2 different ways now. Mm-hmm. So if you're lacking wide receiver depth, why not pick him up? I guess the other thing is as well, do you worry about Adonis Mitchell eating into the time eventually, who was a high draft pick? And who else? There's a wide receiver they've got that's coming back from injury. Josh Downs.
Yes.
Downs?
Yeah, Josh Downs.
When he comes back, does he eat into that time? Because he was semi-wide receiver 1 last year. So I guess pick him up. I mean, why wouldn't you pick him up? He's been awesome so far.
Yeah.
Well, it's clear that Richardson has a rapport with him as well, more so than Michael Pittman. And that may be a case of defenses just sort of zoning in on Pittman, maybe. But
too, man. Let's be real, he sucks as well.
He's had 100 yards. 100 catches last year.
Yeah.
The production's there. It's weird. It's like dribs and drabs almost, but he gets there. It's like a real slow 100 catches.
Yeah, but it's like when I think of Michael Pittman, I don't think of him as like this outside threat. It's weird. Like, he's wide receiver 1 there, and it's usually your X receiver, right? That's just like on the outside. I don't know. I don't view him that way.
This is how I view him. Oh, look, Michael Pittman got 5 catches this week. That's what I think when I see his stat line.
But Alec Pierce, so just to your point too, it would have flattened out after his performance this week, but 7 targets, 5 receptions, 56 yards, and a touchdown. So decent production. Yeah. Decent production.
Richardson also likes throwing it to the opposition too, so be wary.
Malik Neighbours, actually. So I drafted him in one of our leagues, and he would have gone in the middle rounds there somewhere, but he came good this week, didn't he? So he had quite a good game. So not to say that he'd be on the waiver wire there, but if you were looking to trade for someone that early, just based on this production this week, 18 targets, 10 receptions, 127 yards, and a touchdown. So The Giants.
I personally still don't want anything to do with him.
I'm with you. The volume's going to be there, but is Daniel Jones going to be there to produce?
That's the issue.
He
needs to not be there for
yeah, exactly. They need to get someone else in so the neighbours can actually do what he can do.
Well, it's a fair correlation because when I look at, and I was the same. I was like, I don't know if I want to draft Justin Jefferson because of their quarterback situation, and it's a fair assessment. But you can see like what's happening in Minnesota there. Like, I don't know if I put it down to Kevin O'Connell. So I'm going left field here. Well, I don't know if he's a good coach.
I'm putting it down to Kevin O'Connell.
He's a good coach.
And I feel sorry for Brian Daboll in New York because Daniel Jones is the biggest spud at quarterback, probably playing behind Caleb Williams. So, yeah, I wouldn't trust it. Great kid, and he was the second best rookie wide receiver coming out of college. So the talent is there, but man, with Daniel Jones throwing the ball, I can't trust it.
Nah, they paid him $40 million a season.
Yeah, they did.
I'll be very surprised if he's their quarterback next year. Daniel Jones, I'll be very surprised at the Giants. I mean, they're going to have to cut ties at some point, regardless of if they've paid him or not. He's so bad.
What did they do this week again?
Production-wise?
No, the Giants. What did they do?
They lost.
Yeah.
To the Commanders, yeah.
And then
the field goal game. Sorry, the one touchdown and field goal games. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like they lost to a team that was just getting field goals for the entirety of the game.
Yep.
They're not that good, man. And he's not that good. They've got a lot of building to do. At least they got one potential superstar asset.
The Giants are so bad that the Commanders fired their kicker from last week, hired Austin Seibert this week, and he goes 7 from 7 and beats them by 3. The Giants they're just rubbish. And Daniel Jones is rubbish too.
Is there any feeling in that when you say the Giants are rubbish?
Oh, possibly.
Just went up an octave there.
Possibly, actually. There could be some...
Dell was in the room for a second.
There could be some past resentment there somewhere, yes.
Yeah, the Giants and the Colts. I know you love the Colts.
Yuck.
Okay, at tight end. Tight end is a hard position every year for me to go after. I have Kelsey in one league. I've got Evan Ingram and Dalton Schultz. It's after the first 2 weeks, you got Isaiah Likely there at 1, George Kittle, Brock Bowers, Hunter Henry at 4.
Yeah.
Man, he's been good so
Henry's been great.
He's been so good.
Let's actually start right there because you mentioned Henry and Hooper last week at the Bengals-Patriots game. And I'm like, yeah, they only had 5 catches between them. Let's wait and see. Well, today, Hunter Henry was amazing.
12 targets, 8 receptions.
Amazing.
109 yards.
It's clear that Brissett has a very, very good rapport with him. And I think the Pats are going to be a little bit better, and I hold my hand up, than I thought they would be. Again, I don't think we're going to be, winning every single week, but I was expecting something like 3 wins for the year. But I think we're going to be a little bit more competitive than that. But that aside, tight end game, Hunter Henry was awesome. Let's go to Isaiah Likely now, who did next to nothing this week. Again, 2 weeks we're in though. Mark Andrews was definitely a little bit more favoured in the targets this week.
But it was three reception difference, and it's not like he did much more with it.
No, I know. I'm not saying it was a huge difference, but I think there was a little bit of a correction in the who's who in that offense.
I may have jumped the gun last week, but I think it might be whoever's got the hot hand.
Possibly, yeah.
Whoever's open at the time. I don't think it's going to be a clear tight end 1 at Baltimore. It's going to be Andrews gets his 1 week, Likely the other.
Possibly.
That's what it's looking like at the moment. Anyway.
Possibly.
As for picking up tight ends, Hunter Henry is going to be in all the waiver wires. If you need him up tight end, pick him up, and also the Rams tight end, Kobe Parkington. Is that what he's saying?
Yes, something like that. Yeah.
Been pretty serviceable. At
Colby Parkington.
That's it. Yes. But as a matter of fact, pick anything Rams up, even Demarcus Robinson and also Tutu
Atwell.
There's no wide receivers at the moment. May as well pick them up for a couple of weeks.
Well, you play special teams as well, right? Tutu Atwell. Yeah.
Yes.
Punt, kick return.
No, did Kyron Williams take any
He
this
has
week?
not taken any for the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, that tells you what they view Kyron Williams, their number one running back, right? So, Hunter Henry tied second so far for tight ends in terms of targets. So 15 over the last 2 weeks are doing really well. Mike Gesicki, he had a phenomenal game. Other than that drop, which extended that drive after the turnover, but he's had a couple of good weeks. But this week, he probably looks like Cincinnati's tight end one because they've got a few there. They drafted two they drafted two back in April. Eric All, who's also there, he had a few receptions as well, looked pretty good. But Mike Gesicki at number 5 after the last 2 weeks, 13 targets, 10 receptions, 109 yards at 11 yards a clip there. So if you're looking for someone to stream this week, and they've got the Commanders this week.
Yep.
True. And if T. Higgins isn't back again as well,
No.
Like he could be a very, very serviceable tight end again this week.
They're the two, Henry and Gesicki, yep.
So if you, Cincinnati, the way they ran their offense today was very different. I think by the midway during the second half, they had 9 receptions, 109 yards between just the tight ends alone. So they really targeted the tight end. So something to think about if you're looking for a tight end to stream in week 3.
But this is why I drafted 2 tight ends, because you just don't know, and one of them's bound to get injured.
Yeah, I changed my draft strategy because I don't really value tight end because there's only one tight end in our starting roster. And so I usually leave a bit late, and that's why I've always got a backup now in the last 3 drafts, I reckon. Yeah. But the problem is I've got one that injured himself pre-game and then one that's only scoring 2 to 3 points a week. So
a tight end got me Amon-Ra St. Brown last year.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Kickers. Now, you talk about Kaimi Fairbairn?
Yeah, he's off the waivers. I know someone in this room picked him up last minute.
In both leagues.
So
thank you very much.
20 points. 20 points he scored week 2. So
37 from 2 weeks.
Man, he was automatic though. Like he was drilling from everywhere. Like not like they veered off a little bit, like just straight down the middle. Yep. He's been incredible. He's like, if we're going all pro team and it's early, he's the kicker at the moment. He's been awesome.
I don't think there's much to touch on in kickers, right? It's kind of like for me, I value kickers, but if I've got one that, slots me anywhere between 8 to 12 points, they'll stay in my league. If not, I just, I'll stream the week a week.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Easy to stream. I think that teams should be doing it as well. So if they miss a critical field goal, cut them and get a new one.
Like the Commanders did.
Exactly
what the Commanders did, and they got the win with the new guy.
Okay, defense. Now, you said earlier today or yesterday you picked up the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They are 5th overall in terms of fantasy points. 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, 25 points, 12.5 points over the last 2 weeks.
Tell me who is number 1 overall after the
Vikings.
I was about to say,
11 sacks, 3 interceptions, 1 forced fumble recovery, 1 forced fumble,
they've been good.
And 1 defensive touchdown.
They lost Hunter last year too.
Yeah, they lost Daniel Hunter, who's at the Texans.
They've been very good, the Vikings. Very, very
so 35 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. Has anyone got the Vikings?
I was about to say, I wouldn't have thought there'd be a lot of Vikings available on the waiver wire this week.
Look, I'll tell you what, if I'm waiver wire 1, because I'll lose this week, and I've got that lovely Dolphins defense that's called me deuces, mate.
What made you draft the Dolphins, can I ask? Yeah, exactly. Enough said.
Well, they have Bradley Chubb,
Jalen Phillips,
Jalen Ramsey.
I actually thought Christian Wilkins was still there, but he's actually at the Raiders.
Yes,
the defensive tackle. So so that was a.
Is Xavier Howard still there?
No, he's a free agent.
He's gone.
Where have I been?
Jalen Ramsey
probably writing up an editorial about Caleb Williams.
That's not fair.
There's plenty of options, though. The Vikings, I think, will definitely be the one. The Vikings and the Steelers, if the Steelers are there, they're 2 very good options.
Any thoughts on defenses? Like if you
No, I mean the defense are easy to stream week to week unless you get yourself like a real rock solid one, like a Niners or a Cowboys, but they had a dog day this week.
Actually, just on that, for the amount of points that the Saints put up against the Cowboys, they actually did pretty well in the return game. The return game saved them. Their returner,
Which return?
Turpin, for the Cowboys,
Right. Yeah.
wow. Does the kid have some legs? And when he goes, he goes. So that actually saved the Cowboys' score defensively this week. And just touching further on the defenses, where are the Lions?
The Lions are smack bang in the middle, 16th overall.
Oh, I thought they'd be a lot higher than that. Okay. Mustn't have read that too well. But Aiden Hutchinson, did you see his game today?
Yeah, but that's one player. But if you look at it last week, they cop points. They also lost again this week, 20-16. I mean, it's understandable they're better, but they're still leaking quite a few points.
They are leaking, but 4.5 sacks he had for the game. He was 1 sack away from tying the franchise record for 5, and he had 3 to quarter time. I don't know how they adjusted to slow him down, but they did. But his game was phenomenal.
They must have had to chip him. To chip him.
So it's between him and TJ Watt for DPOY at the moment.
At the moment, yep.
Chris Jones might have something to say. His pressure rate today was pretty good.
I so wished he signed for another team last season.
Yeah, it was tethering for a bit, right? His contract worries in the off season, but eventually he signed. But was it last year or the year before where he signed for a 1-year deal and then signed a long term in the last off season?
The last off season,
yeah.
Signed a long term one.
So yeah, any last thoughts on defenses while we move on?
No, I would monitor the Eagles and the Falcons. The Falcons have got a lot of pieces still. See if they gel or click. Surely with their coaches, a defensive-minded coach, they should be able to improve. And then the Eagles as well, because the Eagles drafted in their secondary. They didn't look great against the Packers last week. See what happens this week. But I reckon they're two defenses to maybe keep an eye on for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I expect the Falcons to fire. I think, like you said, there's just too much firepower on that side.
Yeah.
Judon on the edge. AJ Terrell corner. Justin Simmons I didn't mention last week as well.
Totally forgot about him.
Yeah, Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates, there's the safety tandem. I do expect, and Jesse Bates, like phenomenal, all pro last year.
One last thing. If you can stream the defense that's playing the Panthers, do it.
Or the Broncos.
They're so bad.
Just any defense?
Any defense that is playing against the Panthers or the Broncos, do it.
Like, I haven't watched enough of the Broncos or the Panthers to rant on them.
Oh
So
my God.
thankfully, they're going to go through unscathed. But those two teams absolutely suck, man.
Yeah.
Remind me, who played the Panthers? The Chargers did. 26-3. Yeah,
Young is going to be a pretty bad bust.
But let's be real about him, though. He doesn't have a line. He doesn't have a running back. He doesn't have wide receivers. If you're comparing the situation from CJ Stroud to now what Caleb Williams has, this kid literally has nothing.
I know, but if you actually sit there and watch him even just moving around in the pocket, he looks real amateurish, like really bad.
Yeah, I saw a clip of him. He was seeing ghosts and just escaped the pocket. And yeah,
Line or not, man, there's good and there's really good and then there's bad, like Williams, and really bad, and that's where Young is.
I feel bad. I really feel bad for him. He was the number one prospect last year, but I don't think the Panthers have done anything to help him.
it's true. Like, what did they do this last off season after seeing him in his rookie year?
Yeah,
like you said,
Johnson, who looks like a shell of himself.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders, wow. Chuba Hubbard they kept. I mean, there's literally nothing.
Yeah, that's fair. Stream the defense against them, though.
Absolutely true. Like, the Broncos and the Panthers suck.
Good. So you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We'll put all the links in the coming days once we release this. So if you need any advice for us for week 2, just drop a comment, like, and subscribe. 3-man coverage. Until next time, we're out.
Oh, interesting.
Exactly.
What do you need?
I want another running back.
Interesting.
Oh, interesting.